Hello and welcome to the Devil's Bit podcast. You're here with myself, Rudy, Ray, and Glenn. This is Ireland's fastest growing Manchester United fan podcast. And lads, another week. How's it going?
Sup?
Yeah, good, Roddy. Good. Just
All good.
yeah. Come here. Did Danny see that F9 film yet? Just before we get into this, I have to talk about this for a second because I've no one to really talk to about it. What do we talk about it with Nikita because she went with me? But there's no one say it now.
Not the same.
Not yet, no.
Right, it's not the same. It's gone so far off what it was. I don't even think. I just think they just brought the characters into it. I'm gonna just say a few spoilers here, so anyone that's listening that doesn't want to just mute for a second. But come here. Do you know where they end up?
Dublin.
End up where, like?
In the car. Do you know where they end up in the car?
Go on.
They're super agents now, by the way. Space.
What?
They go to space. Honestly, they go to space. Oh man, where would you get it?
That
It was
sounds
just-
legitimate, though.
Oh, Rory, come here. It was just one bad thing after another. I don't know how many people, your man Vin Diesel actually say it from dying by catching them on his car from falling off moving objects. It's just
In
mad.
space.
No, not in space. What?
They have the suits on.
Do you know what they have on? You know what the old scuba divers used to use years ago in the 30s and 40s? Them big heavy ones. They have them going into space. That's what they're wearing.
Dopes.
What? Boys.
How's Han still alive, yeah?
That's just the beauty of them films, isn't it? Anyone that's there just comes back to life, like, just to create a story out of it, like, you know what I mean? John Cena is Vin Diesel's brother, isn't it? Long lost brother, like. Not a mention of a brother for the first the first day, sorry, and then it's of a long lost brother that, you know,
Separate that bird.
No, we
And
killed
have you watched them all up until this point?
me.
Yeah.
I was saying up to 7 I did. I missed out on 8 because I was just like, this is ridiculous. The only reason why I wanted to see 7 was because I wanted to see how they walked around Paul Walker because he died during filming. So I wanted to see how they ended it and all with him. Didn't see the 8th one. Just bought the other night. Went to pictures. The only thing on, it was on in every screen in the pictures, you know what I mean? And it was just, honestly, it was woeful.
No, see, number 8 has the build. You missed the
Doesn't Friday. It doesn't
I
matter.
haven't seen it, I wouldn't know.
Anyway, save yourselves money, don't go and see it. I wouldn't even waste my time bleeding downloading it or whatever people watch it on. It's muck. Seriously.
That's illegal.
I said the castle looked at it and broke their bollocks laughing. I was just like, we're getting paid millions for this absolute shit. You know what I mean? It's brutal. So save your money.
You're here to hear first anyway.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, boys, as I always say, no more flip-flapping about. Let's get straight into it. We're actually going to start with a bit of the women's Manchester United team because there's a bit of stuff going on there, which personally I haven't read too much into at the moment, but I know, Glenn, you have a lot on it, or you have a bit on it anyway, and you're going to inform me and Ray about what's going on. So can you please do that?
Yeah, well, this all started, boys, when in May this year, when Casey Stoney, the manager, said that she was stepping down, which was a huge shock in the women's game, considering that the United team was only founded in 2018. She's the first manager of the team, and she put together the team in 4 weeks. So she got the team together in 4 weeks, which I think is unbelievable. Started off in the Women's Championship, and they absolutely ran amok in it, and won the championship and got promoted into the Women's Super League. So when that's the fourth season, the second season under Stoney, the fourth season of the Women's Super League, they finished fourth, which is respectable. Because you have to look at the Women's Super League. You've Man City, you've Chelsea, huge team, great team, Man City, and you've Arsenal, who are not at what they used to be, but they'd still be competitive. So they finished fourth. This season, the plan was last season, the plan was to get into the Champions League spots, which is third, and they just finished outside that by a point. They were pipped by Arsenal, so they missed out on it. But she stepped down anyway. And the rumour was she wasn't happy with the way the club was being treated, or the team, we should say. And the club brought out a statement. They said that, look, Casey's stepping down. It's her decision. We wish her all the best. You know, the usual malarkey. But it's actually come out that they've been, working out of, second-class facilities. The funding hasn't been there since the pandemic. as I said, last season, they did finish fourth, but for a good majority of that season, they were actually challenging. Tobin Heath, great player. She gets injured, which sort of derailed the team a little bit. But the good thing was that they brought in Lauren James. She's only 19. She's one of the best youngsters in the women's game today. She's actually the sister of Reece James off Chelsea, the right back. So things were looking good. She was in there smacking the goals in. But the problem is now is that Casey Stoney left at the end of the season in May. And there still hasn't been any appointment of a manager. Now, the club did say to the players that they were at the shortlist and a couple of names. This was in May, they were at the saying this. And still there hasn't been a manager appointed.
You're coming into pre-season, is that right?
They're starting pre-season now next week with the assistant manager, Mark Hall. He worked under Casey Stoney. But they're going into that pre-season with no leadership. Add on top of that, you have players like Tobin Heath, Kristen Press, Amy Turner and Jess Sigurd, all first-team regulars at the leaving. They're going. They're on their way out the door. And you've Lauren James now, as I said, the best young prospect in women's football. One of them, she looks like she's going out the door. And the problem is that there's no communication with the club. It's broken down. John Murtaugh, football director, newly appointed football director, he was huge in getting the team set up. The players haven't been able to get hold of him. What we have is before the pandemic hit, they were training in Leah Sports Village. That's what it's called. Because the pandemic and COVID happened, they all moved to Carrington, which seems like a good step up. But what's happening is that you have the men's team, you have the under-23s, the under-18s and all working now with the dressing rooms and the 3 dressing rooms each. That's what they were saying. And the women's team can't even have showers. So the club then came out and said, look, what the only is the likes of Paul Pogba, that's the name they mentioned. He's actually been at Carrington. He hasn't been able to have a shower and all. I'd say that happened once. That's what I'd say if it did happen. Their funding, their accommodation that they're staying in is way below the belt. The club have come out and said that it's in line with everyone else in the Women's Super League. So it shouldn't be below par. So it's just looking like it's a mess. The players now have gone to the PFA, the Players Football Association, so they can actually ask and see where they can go about, can they get in touch with the club, it's hierarchy to see what direction the team's actually going in. But at the moment, it's a huge mess. As I said, the pre-season start next week. And I just think now that it's one of these situations where there's been a lot of pressure put on the Glazers, as we know. They've, brought in Jadon Sancho. They wouldn't spend that money on him, just waiting for the Euros to finish, as we've mentioned. They've started to repaint the stadium and everything. But I just think it's taken, to get that stuff done and over the line, they're taken away from different parts of the club. Do you know what I mean? It's not on.
So that's basically they're not investing new money.
Yeah, they're not investing money.
They're just scraping off somewhere else, and it looks like the women team is feeling the brunt of this.
Well, if you look at it, Casey Stoney on the 12th of May, I think it was, in around that time anyway, said that she was stepping down. So now what date are we? What date is it now? So it's nearly the 12th of July, is it?
It's the 8th of July, yeah, 7th.
The 8th of July, yeah. So we're nearly bang on 2 months since she said she was going. So why isn't there been a manager in place? Yeah, there's no leadership there at the moment. There's players just leaving willingly. You've players there that are American internationals, the best team in the world. They've won the World Cup recently. They're leaving. So what's going on? I can only see it as the Glazers, pushing them to the side to let the fans, let us see that they're progressing the club and that they're doing everything they can for the men's team. Because you have to remember this. The cost of what it'd take to let the women compete in the Women's Super League is nothing compared to what it'd take to compete in the Premier League. We're talking buttons here, really, to keep the team going. Get players in, get managers in, get them the right accommodation, get them the right training facilities and all. It wouldn't cost that much.
Yeah, it seems like a quick rise. It seems like a quick rise from the women's team all the way up to the top, which will just require more and more funding to stay there. The John Morty thing, surely you could have someone, a middleman there if he's so busy elsewhere. There has to be someone there that can, that they can communicate to, get a word to John Morty, to have to go to the PA, whatever.
I think there's a bloke there called Stephen Duval, I think.
Yeah.
He's working he's a finance director, but he's acting as the general manager of the women's team. But again, we've a bloke in place that doesn't understand the role that he's in. Do you know what I mean? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
So
And let me
we've pushed all the troubles onto the women's team, which is not wrong when you think about it.
I pulled up a report there, and it does say that, you know, the team is losing faith in the communication channels with Steve DeVille, is it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
He's the finance director who's been the de facto general manager of the women's team, and John Morton, Manchester United's football director. So, yeah, so the communication channels are breaking down, like you said, Glenn. They can't get in touch with them. So that's what the reports are saying. Now, there's also a quote here from Joe Glazer saying that basically the women's team is a priority. Doesn't seem like it from what you're telling us now, Glenn. And there's a quote here that says, from Joe Glazer, we are determined to have the women's team that follows the values of our club and grows, and that we can all be proud of. So what I take from that now is that the values of the club is profits, basically. And we saw that with the men's team. It wasn't profitable to have the fans against you in terms of like your sponsorship deals are starting to go on a local level. Fans aren't happy. They're not going to spend that money. So that's a problem. So then you invest. But then there's no profits in the women's team either. So that's where you're scraping money from. And now that's becoming a problem. So the values of our club are where the profits are.
Yeah. But look, Roddy, would the women's team have been that profitable before the pandemic? Probably not. But what you're looking for is you're looking to let every team that's involved in the club compete on a level playing field. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they're asking for too much to have decent accommodation, to be able to go to training and after training have a shower. Do you know what I mean? It's not good enough.
Is that to do with COVID or what? It's just.
Well, I'd say they actually say that it is to do with COVID, Ray. But the fact is, like, if you look at the men's team, they're having showers after the train. They would be. The club have said that Paul Pogba one day couldn't have a shower and all. Right.
Paul Pogba.
I don't know if that happened or not, but like, I wouldn't say that the men's team are going in and not having showers after they put a shift in. Like, so it's not really that great. And you look at what the women's team have done, where they've came from, to be only founded 3 years ago, have 3 seasons, 2 of them in the Women's Super League, 2 4-place finishes. Like, the groundwork's been laid to go and push on, and we've
it sounds like they've got in good players, It sounds like they've got in some decent players. Like, I'm not going to pretend I know much about them, but sounds like big names anyway, you know, and that's small space of time, like.
Yeah, and the thing is, that board Casey Stoney, Ray, like, if you listen to her interviews talking before and after matches and all, like, she's what you'd want at the club. She talks really well and all. Do you know what I mean? There's a good documentary about them on MUTV about how they started up and all, and she just played a huge role in it. And the fact that the club have just let her walk away, rightly or wrongly, she probably wanted to go for her own reasons as well. But to not have a replacement in nearly 2 months shows you what's actually going on.
It smells, doesn't it? It stinks. There's something behind it there. Like, if there's no level of communication there and having to go behind the club's back to get a reaction.
Yeah.
You know, that's something. That sounds to me like they want to just scrap that team. Like, they haven't got enough. The timing is not right or something. Or they want to take a back step with the women's team or something like that. You know, put her on the back burner for a while and, you know, rebuild and let it take another 2 years.
That's an issue, boys, because that's the foundation of a team. You can't let a team slack off for 2 years and then expect to come back in 2 years, invest a bit of money, and it's going to be the same. It needs to be consistent growth. And if you're looking at that with the women's team, and we've seen what happens with the men's team, it's very similar. I think, anyway. You know, you slack off. You know, you're not getting those players in. You're not pushing for a Sancho that first year when we wanted them. You know, you'll get by to next year, and then when it really kicks off, all right, then we'll throw a bit of water on the fire.
Yeah.
But that's actually very worrying. I know the women's team isn't as big as the men's, but the way they're being treated, it would suggest that the values the Glazers are putting on this club are horrendous.
Well, the thing is, like, when you look at it, the team in my view, was it was announced in March 2018 that they wanted to, create a united women's team. 2 months later, they appoint a manager, the foundations were laid, they get a team together, they compete. What's been happening with women that's been playing for the United teams underage groups is that they get to before the senior team was started up, they get to a certain age and then they'd have nowhere to progress to. So what's happening is the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea even were snapping up the good players that United were producing from the women's team, the underage teams and everything. So that was the point of getting the team together, you know what I mean? Because there was potential there. There was players coming through that you could invest in, as you might say, you know what I mean? And now all of a sudden that stopped. And it's like, I'm getting the impression that the Glazers have said, right, we can't slack off. We've slacked off too much with the men's team. It's been copped onto. The fans are putting pressure on us and all. So we have to go out and we have to make it look. Look, I will not make it look because they are fixing the stadium up and they have brought Sancho in. But what can we do to, sort of cut losses somewhere else? And that's what's happened. They've left the women's team and they've let the women's team go. I think Christian Press, I think she was out of contract anyway, but there was no sign of the likes of your man Stephen going in and saying, wait, listen, do you want to sign a new deal or anything? These players were allowed to run down their contracts and go. So you're looking at like half the first team squad are gone at the moment. There's no replacements coming in and there's no manager. So
that's unbelievable, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you get away with it because it's women, you know what I mean? And then people say, it's only the women's league and all. But
we're all about equality on this channel, Joe. We're all about equality.
Big time, man. But of course, clubs, the pandemic, like they're going to be cutting costs in certain places. But I think it's the treatment here. Like you're talking about the lack of communication. Football can be a vicious game. You hear players saying that the clubs generally talk open about how it's a business and they let players go willy-nilly. They don't really care about their feelings, blah, blah, blah. But they might communicate that. They might say, listen, there's not a place for you at this club. You need to go elsewhere. It sounds like they've just
trying to sweep it under the carpet.
Pounds off and walk out the door if you want. We don't care.
There was that much going on in May with protests and everything that they just dropped the ball on the women's team. There was no consideration given to it at all. Obviously, when Casey Stoney stepped away, the club put out a statement praising or thanking her, all the rest of it. But you can tell it was just one of them templates that was going out. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, it's at the catching up with them now because they haven't given it a second thought, really. But it looks bad on the whole club, though.
I'd say behind the scenes, Man United is in a bit of a crisis.
We always had this issue, though, wasn't it? We always question what's going on behind the scenes, and it's just starting to show more and more. The more access we get, to what's happening, the more you find out, really, isn't it? Who's really
hopefully we'll keep up to date with that, lads, and see how it goes. Because to be honest, we have been kind of hoping that the Glazers pulled stuff together, and you see the signings that are coming in, but this is a bit worrying as well. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that progresses. What I do want to talk about as well is the match there the other night, again, England versus Denmark. Serious game, lads. Thought there was great quality of football there. In my opinion, England definitely deserved to win. Maybe not the way they did, but listen, that's football. What you make of yourself, Ray? What were the highlights for you?
I enjoyed the game. It was a good battle, wasn't it? Denmark again, surprisingly good. They're solid defensively and all. Really good centre backs, didn't they? And a right system. It was good football, man. England. Yeah, quiet sort of at the start, a bit nervy and all. Then they got into it. The minute they considered what a goal from your man's, that was a great free kick. And then they got going. Kane dropping deep, and it was just one of them. I'm surprised, and fair play to Southgate. I was criticising him, so fair play to him. He didn't listen to any of the outside noise and the media and all, and that must be tough. Especially England. And they progress. And they're in the final. What? England in the final. It's mad. They could win it, but they're coming up against a good old side. So, yeah. Sterling, I thought Sterling was very good for him.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
he gave everything, didn't he? And he was taking on 3 and 4 players late into extra time and buzzing about. He
You
was.
could see he wanted it, yeah. Glenn, what do
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a good game. I did, and I was, to be honest with you, like, I'm not supporting England or anything like that, but like when you looked in at the fans in the stadium and all, and when it was going into extra time, and the look on their face of delight that they're in a semi-final, the worry that they might, you know what I mean, that it might go against them and all, and you know, when they did go in front in extra time and all, the roof just came off the place. So I thought it was great, but for me, I know Sterling was brilliant. He's been brilliant all tournament. I thought Kyle Walker had a good game. I thought he showed the same energy level from the start of the game till the end of it. But I have to say, Harry Maguire was a beast last night. And what I was really impressed with was the amount of headers he won in Denmark's box, you know, from corners and free kicks and stuff like that. And I was just saying to myself, like, that's what we need him to be doing now next season for us.
Yeah.
He's a big physical presence in the box.
And was it Schmeichel who saved?
Sorry, Ryan? Sorry.
Was it Schmeichel who saved that header?
Yeah, what a save.
Yeah. They're on the end of everything, didn't the desire and all, like, not overthinking, and, you know, I think that's the thing. England just allow you to just do your job at the moment under Southgate, and he instilled this belief in them. They hold back a little bit when you're at United. I don't know why. Hopefully we won't get to see that this season and we can just overlook it, but they're different players in that English.
It's interesting actually you say that, Ray, because I was watching an interview there with Gary Neville and Harry Maguire called The Overlap. Have you seen that on Sky Sports? They do it every now and then. It's a very good interview. He was talking about Shaw and how Shaw's come along and how that's down to Ollie giving them that courage, but also Maguire giving them, you know, the belief and the confidence to go on and show how good a player they can be. And he was talking about how when he has a solid left back and a solid centre back, that he can do nothing but play well. And I thought that was very interesting because Lindelof, he didn't mention Lindelof, you know, he was mentioning Stones. And I suppose they were talking about England, so they weren't talking about United, but it was interesting that, message. You know, Lindelof is that kind of weak link, and that's what I picked up on it anyway. He didn't say that. I can't say that.
I don't think exactly. He wouldn't be able to say it to the fans, but it's not the first time I've heard comments like that, you know, where they're sort of pointing fingers at everyone else. And, you know, we all know Lindelof is, you know, sort of the weaker link and, you know, a bit weaker in everything really, in all aspects of the game. But yeah, you see it different Maguire, don't we, in that England team? And it was the right time to bring him in right before in that Czech Republic game. I thought again looked after well, because if he wasn't really, like, if he didn't play in that game, I don't think he could have got in and fitted in as well as he has now and picked up the pace. So it was a perfect time. And yeah, fair play to Southgate here that's looking after them all. Brilliant.
Look, there's a lot of talk about him bringing Grealish on last night and then taking him off.
There was a lot of talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what?
That's exactly what I mean.
I don't actually think that Grealish cares. They made out the point was Gary Neville and Ian Wright and all. They're all saying, look, you know what I mean, it looks bad and all that he was brought on, he's brought off. But I don't get that from this England team at all. It was a year's togetherness with them. I don't think he would have looked at that and says, you're making a show of me. He got on for a half an hour and done his job. England went ahead and Southgate does what he does. You know, he tried to just close the game out. And he just looked and says, look, I'm going to take you off. I didn't, when the camera went on to Grealish, now I was shocked myself when he first said that Grealish was being taken off.
Yeah.
Jesus, someone a sub. But when the camera went on to Grealish, he didn't look angry or down or embarrassed. He just looked like this is what has to be done for the team.
Yeah. And, I initially thought he was injured.
Yeah, that could be. No, I haven't heard that about an injury, but that's what one of the commentators said. It could be an injury. I don't think it was. I think it's just Gareth Southgate doing what he wants, and that's what England. I don't think there's been a braver England manager than Gareth Southgate that I've seen. Spain, and you think of Capello, they always went with the same team all the time. And I know Southgate does. You know, he has Stones and Maguire there. He's Royce and Phillips there. Like, he has the base of his team. But he's not afraid to go with players like that. Like, you look at Calvin Phillips, he's been huge for England in this Euros. He has. I don't think he's got enough praise and respect. Probably from the England fans, but not from worldwide fans that's watching the Euros, you know what I mean? And that's only because he plays for Leeds. That's not a look at saying, oh, look, Leeds are not a big club or anything. It's just it's their fourth season back in the Premier League. They're in the wilderness for a while. If he was playing for the likes of us or any of the other big six and all, you wouldn't stop hearing his name being mentioned.
No, yeah.
Pretty true, man. I was going to say, saw it last night.
Yeah. He looked a bit. I thought he looked a little bit. He was getting out muscled a little bit in the first half, and a couple of the duels and all. I was like, he probably looks a little bit tired now. You know what I mean? He's been playing in every game, starting in every game. He gives everything in every game. You know what I mean? He goes in for every tackle, 110%. But then he grew into the game. Then you know what I mean? And you know he was winning the ball back, and he was laying the ball off. And the thing that he's doing that I like about him is that he wants to play the ball forward. Doesn't look to get it and just play them sideways passes the way Declan Rice sort of does. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I like.
He gets forward, takes people out of the game and all. Makes they look like unnecessary runs, like up and down, and he just opens up other spaces. He's real good, and I thought he was deadly just watching him play for Leeds in the middle on his own, just in the middle on his own. And they had some performances last season, so I had a feeling it was going to be. I was surprised when I didn't even know I was in the English squad, but when I heard, I was like, he's going to be top of the range. And this
is something. Like, it's mad the way you said that because this is something like when Southgate was first brought in after Sam Allardyce, he was there like as a temporary caretaker or whatever. The FA wanted to give him a contract, I think, just for the Euro, for the World Cup in 2018 and see where he went. Southgate said, no, look, you'll give me a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal, somewhere along them lines, just, to treat him like they would treat every other manager. But the thing is that the likes of Calvin Phillips would never have gotten into an England team with other managers. They would have just went for the big players playing at the big clubs. And that's where I think England have gotten it right. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they've went with the players in form. That's what he does.
Exactly, yeah.
Some of his decisions are, sometimes he doesn't pick the players that's in form. I know that he wasn't putting Grealish in the team at the beginning of the year. There was a whole thing about that. You know what I mean? Is he or isn't he going? Does he like Grealish or not? You can clearly see now that he does because he's brought him on in every game. The thing I was a little bit disappointed in last night was that he didn't start Sancho. He picked Saka over Sancho, which I thought was a bit mad because I thought against the Ukraine, Sancho played very well. I think Saka has played well for England as well, but I just think Sancho was ready to just be unleashed really. So I didn't understand the thinking behind that, to be honest with you.
He's a little bit like Donny.
Saka got the assist, didn't he?
Yeah, he got the assist. Yeah,
he was a little all over the place at the start. He didn't know when to like pass or take on players. It just seemed like he wanted to take on all the time, like take players on all the time. He just didn't get that right until the later stages when England got going. I think after that first goal, when sort of suited his game, where you could just say, right, I need to go at these and make things happen, and that's how they made it happen. You said it already. When Denmark made changes, they sort of faded away as well. I think you said it in the chat, and see that the game just opened up and they took their two centre midfielders off as well. And
did he make them make changes too early? Did he? They seem to make all the subs like really in the second half. They were probably out on their feet, but I just thought that you looked at it then. Southgate didn't make any changes. Then he went into extra time, and I brought Grealish on. You know what I mean? But like the Danes were at to make 3 or 4 subs before full time, like before 20 minutes. Like, which I thought was strange. Like, do you know what I mean?
And I think it was Jensen, was it, who came on in front? Kind of long haired chap with the ponytail. He was a bit lost. He was a loss. He came on there for a while at the start when he came on. He just couldn't keep the ball. But it was in extra time when you started to see him. He was able to take it down, turn, pass it off. But they just hadn't got the momentum going forward.
But Lordy, in extra time, it's when England scored. England then changed. Then do you know what I mean? They
scored a goal at the end of the game. Start of extra time, yeah.
Oh, really? Right. But the thing is,
I'm glad you brought up Southgate and Grealish there, because I was watching Southgate's interview after the match, and someone asked him about Grealish and what was his reaction, and he said Grealish was very understanding. He said, I went to explain, and Grealish said, No need to explain to me, Gaffer. I
Yeah,
do what's right for the team.
deadly. That's
And
it. What you want, man.
I'm bringing that back to United. That's a big decision to take off a big player that you put on from a substitution. And if you look at Ollie, I don't think he's there. Like he would never do that, and it's because of the
Yeah,
player
yeah.
and how the player will react. And Southgate said, "In my dressing room, there's no egos," and
Yeah.
I think that's very important. I think at United we're missing that sometimes. You know what I mean? You don't see a player coming on when they
Well, I think
probably
what I
should
think
make
is
that change.
what I think is everything Southgate has done in these Euros has come off him. Every decision he's made has gone for him. Like, do you know what I mean? There's been no backlash from him because it's all went his way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's probably harder. Like, for instance, the first game they played against Croatia, if they hadn't got the result, the big thing, the big talking point from that game would have been the fact that Trippier was playing at left back. Do you know what I mean? Then it would have been a little bit difficult for Southgate then to start making them big decisions, I think. Do you know what I mean? But when you start seeing that, yeah, I'm after making the right decision there, we got the result in the game, your confidence is obviously growing with the team. Do you know what I mean? Because when you look at it, when you go to the Scotland game, the England fans were pissed off with the Scotland game because they couldn't get the win. Do you know what I mean? And there was huge pressure then on Southgate because it was like, you know what I mean? We have to win now the next match, even though they had their 4 points in the bag. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. He did the right thing though, didn't he? All they needed was a point in that game. That was a dodgy game for them. You know, you could easily get beaten by that game by emotion. You know, if you invest too much emotions, England just did a job. They went out there, listened to the instructions that the manager gave. That's what it looked to me. Just, you know, like Ollie, I find a lot of similarities. Obviously, Southgate has a lot more on the bench and to his disposal. The players that he has to bring on are just unbelievable. But I find the way they play is structured like that. It's a lot going forward, building from the back. It's similar to how you want to play. I just don't think we have the bench to make our manager look like.
Or the defense, right?
It's
the defense.
Southgate's coming across now as the main man. Get one of them decisions wrong early, and.
Do you know what could come back to haunt them though? And I was saying this to you earlier, Ray, is that Jordan Pickford in goal. Although he's going to get the Golden Glove, he kept 5 clean sheets, along with Stones and Maguire, Shaw, Mings, all them. He looked very edgy yesterday. He looked edgy in the Ukraine game when he ran out and tried to clear the ball, and he miskicked it and went behind him and everything. He got away with it. Last night he was throwing the ball to the Denmark players. When the pass back came back to him, he was trying to chip the ball out to the fullbacks. He was knocking it out of play. There was a time there where the ball came in, he could have caught it, and he decided to punch it. And I think there's definitely a mistake in him, and it might cost England in the end, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be just like that for something like that to happen. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I can really see going wrong with England at the moment. Because what Southgate's done is, you said the race built out in the back. He's built his game on clean sheets. 4 clean sheets England have had in the competition in 6 games.
I've said it before, lads. England would look a bit edgy if they went behind, if the opposition got a goal, because that's a big stepping stone when you have so many clean sheets.
Yeah.
The goal behind in the game, especially that early. So I was actually delighted to see how well they held it together.
Character showed you they had a bit of character. I think any England fan would have thought that. What are we going to do when we go behind? And in a game of that magnitude, you could tell that they started a little bit nervy, as you would. You know, you're there in the, 68,000 yesterday? 60,000 of them are England fans. It's a semi-final. They've been to a couple of semi-finals that hasn't gone their way. And you could see that in the early stages. And especially the goal that went in, I mean, that was a cracker, that was. I was listening to the commentators last night. They were saying maybe Pickford could have got to it. You know what I mean? It was a bit centrally and all. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It was some pace. But after that, England copped on, and you've seen Harry Kane play like the way he's been playing for Spurs this season, dropping into that number 9 position, and letting people run in behind him. And I think that's the key against Italy. I don't think he's going to be able to compete with Bonucci and Chiellini. I think he's going to have to try and drag them into the middle a little bit, you know what I mean, and get the likes of Sterling or whoever he has out on the right, whether it's Saka or Sancho or whoever, to get in behind the Italians.
Yeah, Italy's going to be their biggest challenge, and that could be their downfall because they haven't come up against like a team like that, like maybe like France or anything.
That counter-attack would kill England, Rory. That's the thing. Italy's counter-attack would kill England. Italy have it in them to not have the ball and be 2-0 up.
Yeah.
You'd expect
dominate possession. Go ahead, right.
You'd expect Southgate to be wide to that, so it suits England as well, just being patient in the way they build. And the longer the game goes 0-0, England have the best chance. I've said this in all their games. They're made for tournament football, this team, honestly. The way they play, the manager they have, the way they use the ball, the build, they're made for it. That's why they're so dangerous. It's going to be a cracker of a game. Who would expect it, man? No one even talked about their record going into this.
No.
I
wasn't even aware of it, to be honest. I didn't even know until the fourth game. I was like,
I came across it, and people was, after the first few games, people were talking about the record, and I was like, geez, that's some record going in. I think it was like, they're on 30 games unbeaten, 2 years or something like that. That's something else. And they haven't got the most, superstars in that team, but what they have is just like England again, a good solid sort of bond there, and everyone's on the same level, aren't they? And it's going to be tough.
They want it,
yeah.
And then you pulled together some stats there from the United players. So looking at Luke Shaw there, just want to go through them and we see how they performed.
Yeah. 3 tackles there.
Why not?
Yeah, 3 tackles, 1 clearance, 1 interception, 1 key pass. Our key passes 5 out of 10. Ground duels 1, 4 out of 5. Aerial duels 1. 84% pass accuracy. So he didn't do too bad. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
that's Luke Shaw there. Yeah. And then Harry Maguire. But Luke Shaw looked quite good, and he had some great speedy runs into the box there.
He made some good interceptions last night at the right time in the game. You know what I mean? Near the end of the game and all, like he was breaking the play up just inside Denmark's half and everything. Like, you know,
they were coming down that right, a lot, weren't they? That was
you're trying to use your man's pace, breathweight or something. He's a rocket, but that's all he has. That's why Barcelona born pacey. If you give him the ball into pace, he can catch you on the counter attack. Them fullbacks did that job, didn't they, to stop that? It's just that's why he probably has the most interceptions. It came off. It came off for him, intercepting the ball, stopping the counter attack.
We have a look at Maguire there, Glenn.
Maguire?
Yeah.
Yeah, so most duels won with 10. Most aerial duels won with 7. Most clearances, 3. Most interceptions, 3. Most shots on target, 2. That's the one day you want to be looking at. And that's what I was saying. Like he did win a lot of the ball in the opposition in the Denmark's box, and I want to see him do that for us. I want to see him being aggressive. He should definitely be scoring more goals from us because he does have that heading ability and he has that presence. Do you know what I mean? And you could see he went up for it. Did he go for a header last night? And he caught your man with his elbow. And it was totally unintentional. He got booked for it, and you could just see it in his eyes. That he just wanted that game last night. Do you know what I mean? The passion was there, and it's great to see players like that. I think whether it's England or not, you know what I mean?
I saw that passion in Schmeichel last night because when the penalty went in, he saved it. He obviously tried to catch it. A bit too much power or whatever happened there. It didn't happen. But he just could not believe it after the goal went in. You could kind of see in his face, he was looking to object about something, but there was nothing to object to. But then apparently it was a laser. A laser was shining into his eye.
There was that. There was the fact that it wasn't a penalty in the first place. The fact that the referee gave that, you could sort of understand in real time the pressure of the occasion. But it was Arsene Wenger that said it today. He was like, in them situations, like, you know what I mean? You have to be getting them situations right for the occasion that it is. Why is VAR not telling the referee? Why is VAR not seeing in the first place there's no contact? If they can't make that decision themselves, send the referee to the screen. Let him make the decision again. You know what I mean? Like, because if that Denmark,
the angles for me, Glenn, didn't cut it. They didn't cut it. I know there was no contact from what's his name now.
The first tackle.
What was it?
The tackle that came from behind there was no contact there.
He'd beaten both players.
Yeah, but the one in front, when I looked at it again, the one in front, it's like he caught in his running lane.
In
in that quick area, you can't move. There was a couple of tackles like that for your man Vestergaard last night where Sterling could have got by him and he just stood his ground. I mean, there's nothing in the rule book to say like the player lost the ball by you have to get out of the way.
There was no contact, man. I thought the same. I looked at it and I was looking at it 3 or 4 times. The fella that went shin to shin guard with him, there's no contact there.
It's the front.
But the one in front, the one kind of in front where he sort of moves his hip in the way. Now you could argue that he could have moved out of the way, but the referee should have had
it. I think they were focusing on the first touch because that's the replays they kept showing while the VAR decision was being made. They kept showing the one where the tackle from behind. That's what they were showing.
Well, that's the only angle they had. That's
if you don't avoid that.
There was 2 footballs on the pitch.
Yeah, there was 2 footballs on the pitch and they were calling for it. That caused the hesitation, what it looked to me, from Denmark. I think it was Vestergaard out there, But can you put the ball out?
The referee has to stop the game. The referee has to stop the game, and it's like that. Because
if the attacking team is in the box,
you have to do it. There's 2 footballs on the pitch. No, don't get me wrong. I don't want to come across like I'm like, oh, England. Like I'm just saying,
I know.
It was a bit mad the way they did win in the end, even though they deserved it. It was just, as you said, Roddy, the way they won it in the end wasn't what you'd probably want. You know what I mean? If you're Schmeichel, you're going to be pissed off of the comments he made. Did it ever come home and all? We was asked the question.
That's an okay comment to make. I think that's
a bit of banter.
A bit of banter before the match.
Like you respect a few goals when he gets back.
He what?
He said after that, like if you go beyond that comment, like later on, he says that England are a great team and blah blah blah. And I don't care about them not bringing it home. I just want to come home. I just wanted to come to Denmark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was just having a cheap shot. Like I thought it was very funny.
No, it was good. It's just he was asked a question, he dealt with. But what I'm saying is, when you're him, you're public enemy number 1 for that game because you've said that you've put the English down in their own back garden. To save the penalty and then for it to rebound off and from Harry Maguire to just
stick very bad.
Very bad. Oh, very bad, man.
Shows the pressure.
Schmeichel's mistake. Schmeichel's mistake was to try and hold on to that.
Yeah, he should have pushed it off, but it's where it came to him as well, right? It was going to chest.
Yeah, it was further away from where he should have been, wasn't he? He was like too close to the corner.
He was to the corner.
He didn't think that ball will actually go nearly centrally as much as it did. It's a bad penalty. I thought Harry Kane was wrecked towards the end, like he was in the corner and he lost the ball a few times. And me first time when Grealish got taken off was, why wouldn't he not just take Harry Kane off? But look, it's Harry Kane. He can get a goal any time. That's what he's in the team for, even when he's not playing well. And I criticised him.
And he did well. Like he did what he needed to do. Any bit of contact, he went down. That's he was tired at the same time, and just he felt that little bit of contact behind him. You go down, get the free kick in a good spot. And at that point in the game, that's what you want.
I thought he was in the wars last night, lads. So you look at the size of your man Vestergaard, he is a beast.
He's like him defending on top.
But and you could see Maguire Kane up against him. And this is the point I want to try and make about this now. When you look at both Italy and England, both of them went to extra time in their semi-finals and all. But England had the tougher test physically for the 120 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Italy are playing against Spain, who love to just keep the ball there, technically very good. We are looking at the likes of Denmark and all, who for the majority of the second half and the extra time were camped in their own half, really, and they were just getting stuck in, like, do you know what I mean? So I think that could have a toll now, you know what I mean?
They would have been comfortable in that position. What they were is an effective team, like, so they knew they'll get that chance. They haven't, like, they've scored some goal as well. They haven't conceded that much either, but they were comfortable in defending that game. It was just, when they had to make changes, Glenn, and take off some of them, that back through the middle. Yeah, that was it. And England, the if you're looking at like that's why the bench in them games is so devastating. Like if you're that Denmark team and you're looking at what's coming off the bench, and Grealish, Southgate identifying that that's what that game needed the most, a player in the pockets at the right time was just that's why that's so dangerous, man.
You'd have to be wondering at United actually looking at Grealish, because the way he carries the ball, the most foul player in the league there he was last year. And
the talk was that he wanted, the Grealish. Sorry for cutting you off there, but the talk was that we wanted Grealish before Donny, and we ended up with Donny because it was a perfect opportunity. Whether that's any truth in that, you never know. There's always rumours around transfers, but he's definitely a player that I'd say the top teams are looking at for sure.
You're definitely getting Donny cheaper than you're worth Grealish, no matter what. Because Grealish is English, you know what I mean? So we could probably think that there's probably some truth in that, because you're saying 40 million for Donny, or at the time you're probably looking at about 80 million for Grealish. You know what I mean? You're looking at 100 million now. So
they would have been on the same playing field. You would have thought of Donny, on that level for sure. But it just.
But then again, talking about why Donny didn't get in, is Donny's not getting in because Bruno Fernandes is there. So if you get Grealish, is it the same situation?
I don't know. I think there's more to Grealish than I think. I know
it's
Donny
his ability to run with the ball, man. It's his dribbling qualities. He has that in him where he can get you out of a hole. If you're coming under pressure and the ball comes out to Grealish, he's going to move you up that pitch and relieve the pressure from the back forward all the time. Do you know what I mean? And his creativity and all, you can see it in the England games. You can see it when he's playing for Villa now in the last season, that he's he has the ability to pick out pass and create chances and everything. And that's what we need. And if you're talking about Bruno, we're probably over reliant on Bruno, and I think we've seen that with Bruno in the Euros. He wasn't playing to his full potential, because I genuinely think he was just knackered. Because I think he played at the time Portugal went down, he was playing the most games of any player in Europe. I think it was 63.
Ray, you said it there. You said it there that Southgate picked the players that were in form. Rashford's not getting picked. He's knackered. Yeah,
he's knackered, and he overplayed at United. And you can see from his body language he was done, but we didn't have the luxury. That's why we're here in the transfer market, and we're linked to all these players, and we're linked to a few midfielders, which is great, because speaking about Bruno, I'd actually like to see him, in behind Cavani a lot more this season. I'd like us to have something in place for Bruno to not have to drop so deep. Okay, drop deep when you need to drop deep, but not all the time. Let your energy be used for the shooting and for that final pass, because I think he has that. And you can never have enough players like Grealish in your team. Or Bruno. The more you have of them, the better. Would I like Donny van de Beek to sort of be able to play with Bruno, but I always felt that they couldn't really. They were in each other's spaces all the time. Where Donny van de Beek should have maybe adapted a role where, like, really you'd like to, start off wider and, come in, a couple of touches of the ball and lay it off, or commit a defender. But it was always hesitant. He was always, listen, I won't even turn here. My chance will come to turn at some stage. I'll pick the right time, and it was the right time.
But now you might say that, and you might say, oh, maybe you'll get a turn next year. But there's some rumours coming out that he might be going to Madrid. Madrid were looking for him, and we were looking for him. But it's in the works that he might go on loan to Madrid. Could even be a deal. Is that good? Say he went on loan for 1 or 2 years. Is that good for us, or do you think that's the end of Donny van de Beek at United?
I don't know, these loan deals, for Donny van de Beek. He's not that young anymore, is he? I'd like to give him another year, I'd like to see him in the United team with better players around him at least 1 more year, and then see what happens. If he's still that sort of, inverted sort of attitude about him, and, not expressing himself on the pitch the way we all know he can, then I think you'd have to look at something. But it's early, you have to give him a year to adapt to the game as well. You have to take that into consideration. I just want to see the ability that everyone's been talking about, and Dutch players tend to have. So,
yeah. What do you think on that, Glenn?
Well, first of all, why would you be getting rid of Van der Beek after a season? You know what I mean? If look, there is a player in there. Whether we can get it out of him or not, I don't think it's right to be, trying to offload him. The thing I will say about Van der Beek is there's pictures that are coming out of Van der Beek back training and all in the gym, lifting weights and everything. You know what I mean? Which is something he didn't get to do last year. The fact that he missed out on the Euros through injury and he's back at Carrington training tells you what his attitude is like. And he's obviously putting it to himself to say, look, I want to try and force my way into this team. You know what I mean? We've seen players in the past for United and for other clubs that when it hasn't worked out for them, they've just left. Like Di Maria, didn't work out for him. They didn't look like he wanted. Didn't apply himself the right way. Brought me in for over 50 million. Was it right? 56, 58 million, something in around that. The next season, do you know what I mean? I think Van der Beek is good enough to play for us, and I think with this pre-season under his belt, he will, be in the team a lot more than he was. But as you said, Ray, like you can never have enough of players like Grealish and everything. Why would we be getting rid of someone that like Van der Beek when we need strength and depth? We didn't have it last season. The caught up was in the end in that Europa League final. So just keep hold of him. Like I just don't agree with the loan deals. What's Van der Beek now? 25, going out on loan to Madrid. Again, I said this about Martial when that came up about him going to Madrid. I'd say the same thing about Van der Beek. If you're not coming off the best of form, you're having a bad season. Is Madrid a club that's in decline with the fan base they have and the expectation, the place for a player like that to be going? I don't think so, because that could actually end you in terms of your playing career in other countries. You'd probably end up back at Ajax. Do you know what I mean? Which is nothing wrong with Ajax, but you'd have to class him then as a failure if he went on loan to Madrid and it didn't
Don't be
work.
butchering Ajax, man.
No.
People from Ajax listen to this podcast. They'll never listen again.
No. Ajax are a huge club, right? But what I'm saying is that like to go back there after being at United and then say he went to Madrid and it didn't work, because I just don't think Van der Beek has that personality for Madrid. Because you know yourself, man, from watching Madrid over the years, like what the media are like over there. First of all, I think they're worse than the English media, and then the fan base just expect the best of the best all the time. And I think Madrid are in for a bad season this season. I think it was a mistake for Ancelotti to go back there, a mistake for Madrid to go in from. It'll just show you the mess that they're in. They're going for managers that they've let go. We've brought back Zidane, now they've brought back Ancelotti. The captain and probably one of the best players over the last 10 years is at the moving to PSG. So they're not in a good place. I don't think it's a place for a player like Van der Beek to be going at the moment.
Well, I like what you're saying there. Van der Beek's back training in the gym and maybe seeing where his weaknesses are and maybe trying to improve them in his strength and fitness. Do you think that's something Ollie is trying to distill in the players by saying, if you can get to a certain level, you have a place in this team? Like you see with Luke Shaw, Mourinho didn't really want them in the team, and Solskjaer, Ollie saw the potential and said, listen, this is what you need to do, go do it, and then there's your place. Same with Maguire. Do you think some of these players are saying, if they can do it, I can do it too?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Ollie tries to please everyone. I think that's not a great quality to have. I think he's listening to the fans, comparing him to Southgate. He doesn't do that. I think he listens to, which is not the worst thing to listen to the fans, but don't be influenced. We fans have our favourites. There's no doubt about that. We want to see all these players in the team. But you know best. You know what's going on that training ground every day you're with them. There was no doubt there was a fitness issue with Donny van der Beek at the start. I thought I'd seen it in some of the games when his body language was wrong. Sometimes kicking the ball late into the game, you don't really see that from a pro, so it becomes evident when it does happen. So I thought he needs some time to get going, but he never really got going. Whether he was disturbed by the lack of games or when he did get his chance, he mentally wasn't there. Maybe his confidence shattered through training sessions, not being able to keep up with some of the pace of the game. But there's some of the hurdles you really have. That's what annoys me. There's some of the hurdles that you need to get over. The last thing you want to be stopped by is mentally. I think, you don't want to be shown mental weakness, I think, at the top level, don't you know? You're giving up on your talent there if you're not confident, if you can't gain confidence, over a few the games that he did have, he should have been able to build on that. But listen, he would look great in a thriving United team. I think he'd be one of them players that'd be hard to pick up. Always will keep teams guessing. You never really know. He has that ability to, be elusive and not know what he's going to do at the right times, or hard to pick up. And you never know with United and the coaching staff. We have a tendency to try and rebuild the player, strip him down and rebuild him for what we need at the right time, and not, save the Glazers for going into their pockets. We're looking at Matic now. He's a little, we're unsure of what Matic is, what position he's going to have at the club. Maybe United are trying to build this player that's deeper, and you never know. Van der Beek, you could do that with him. He has all the ability. If you get the right coaching, behind him, and he's had that at Ajax. They're the best coach players in the world, like, they're players that have it done for them. And if you're talking about, just to go back on Glenn's point there, maybe a move to Real Madrid would be good for him. If you have the right manager like Ancelotti, a manager that they respect, and obviously their board is not stupid either. They're bringing in the right manager just to keep the fans off their back as much as they can until they wave their, white handkerchiefs, till it's game over for the manager. Till, they all dread that white handkerchief moment where the fans have just given up. But I think because of the connection with Ancelotti, gives the board and gives the team a lot of time. And if you think of the position they're in at the moment where they need to rebuild and don't have that much money, I think a loan move with an obligation to buy might be ideal. But the main thing is there that he's happy and he's ready to go. He's in training and he's ready to build.
Yeah, but so what we're saying is if he goes to Madrid, he's gone from United.
Yeah, I don't like the deal. I don't like the deal where like loan with an option to buy, because it just gives the loanee total control.
But are you saying that if we do see him go to Madrid, that's it? Van der Beek's gone from United. That's how I would see it.
Yeah, you never know, man. Maybe his mindset is that of, I can't get going at this club. Too much has happened. Yeah. There's too many players maybe coming in. Who knows? There's we're looking at other players in the middle there that could be decent, and players in the wide positions as well. That takes away from his game as well, because he is a player that can play anywhere, really. We've seen it, right hand side of the pitch, deeper in the middle, in the Bruno position. Slowly doors are shutting for Van der Beek, so it's time to, perform.
Open new doors, really.
Open the door, find the key.
I know what you're saying. And opening the doors, Pogba looks to be opening the door in France, maybe head to PSG.
Go on,
lads. We all love Pogba. We all love Pogba. I know Glenn's a big fan. But Ray, I'll come to you on this first because your love for the chap. But what do you think? Are you thinking sad day if we see Pogba go?
Yeah, it would be a sad day, yeah. PSG are looking like the right choice for Pogba, the right fit for Pogba. I thought I never say Real Madrid seemed to be the one where, he that's it would have been his preferred choice if he had to leave. And it's probably no secret now that he, I want a new channel, and this and that. But look, if he had to leave, you're thinking of it. This is the year to leave,
Yeah.
Going into next season, it's not a good situation for the club. It leaves you with no money coming in and no player coming in. How are you going to replace Pogba that way? Like, it'll probably take one deep player and one more attacking player to replace him. So it's time to make your choice now and put the right decisions into place and maybe let him go. He wants to win the Champions League. That team, PSG, is building hugely for that. They bought in 4 players already, and top class players. They bought in Ronaldo, Ramos, and a couple of other players. The keeper, Donnarumma, and one more that's escaping me now. So they're looking to go, major into the Champions League. So maybe that's what he wants. A new challenge would be a good one for him. And if we're looking at what we need is is another player in there that we will link to it as well. I'm sure we'll get on to him. But he resembles Pogba a lot, and PSG are in for him as well. Camavinga, there was talks of him going to PSG. So if we can offload Pogba that way and bring in Camavinga, then I'd be happy with that. We always said it, what's best for the club. Pogba's a great talent and all, but if his mind's not here, and if we're going to get the same sort of jazz with him, then I'm with Glenn on this one.
Glenn's twitching over there. Glenn, what do you make of Pogba leaving? You kicking him out the door?
Look, I said to Ray a couple of weeks ago, I says, look, I'd keep him for the other year just because, why not get the 6 years out of him and then let him go, because you've made that 89 million price tag back and all that, over the 6 years, definitely. But, then you have to think and say, if he does go into the last year of his contract, which he's in, and he doesn't sign, he's free to go and talk to clubs in January. If United were in, a title contention in a position that they're challenging for the title in January, and then talks start coming out about him signing for, let's say, PSG, does that derail the title challenge? It sort of takes away from what the club and the team is doing. Then you flip that, and we weren't doing well, and he went and he signed for someone else in January, piles the pressure on even more. I think PSG would be a good move for him simply because I know he'd have the license to just do what he wants, do you know what I mean, and act the way he wants to act, do you know what I mean, without anyone picking him out for everything. I don't know what the pundits would be like over in France with him. I can't see them digging him out. I can't see the PSG fans digging him out for anything either. They wouldn't be like the United fans, you know what I mean, and letting it be known what they actually think if someone's not putting the shift in. But it's definitely a situation that has to be resolved, and resolved quick. If he's staying, go and sign another deal. Do you know what I mean? If there's an offer there on the table, and we think, and the club thinks that, it's a decent offer, what he wants, then give it to him. If not, let's get it out of the way, because I just don't want this becoming the Paul Pogba show again, where it drags on and other good things that the club are doing are being brought down. You know what I mean?
And what's been said about this is that, Pogba's 28 now. This is his last chance to get a big contract with a big club for a good period of time before he starts creeping into, going to China or the United States to make a few quid. But the price tag on at the moment, Glenn, is looking like £43 million towards £51 million. Do you think that's something that could be of value to us to kind of invest somewhere else? Because Pogba is probably going to go next year.
Yeah, well, obviously, look, do you know what I mean? It could go towards a player. Now Ray is saying about that young flick, Camavinga and all. My thing is that would he be coming in to start, would he? Or would he be coming in to do what Ahmed's doing? You know what I mean? Not that Ahmed's doing bad, but just, he's in the squad here and there, but wouldn't be playing any significant games. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather see someone coming in that's proven. What I'd like to do is get your man Camavinga in and loan him back to Rennes for the season. That'd make more sense to me. Do you know what I mean? Rather than taking him out Rennes now and trying to throw him into the first team, or else just leaving him there in and around the first team, which wouldn't be good for him either. Do you know what I mean? So if we wanted to get this deal off the line, you'd want maybe put that 43 million towards the 30 million price tag on Camavinga and then loan him back out.
Yeah, and like you're saying, Camavinga could be the perfect replacement for Pogba, and I've seen that written places. Look, he's only 18, and coming into the Premier League is very different than what you're playing with Rennes. I don't think he'd be able to withstand what would be thrown at him. Like, what's he coming up against? De Bruyne.
Yeah. Look, he's been playing first team football a long while. He's racked up so many games. He's debuted for France first team, and he will be playing in that Olympics coming up now. So that'd be a good watch for all of us to see what he's about. I think he has good physical attributes. He's nice and tall, and he's good on the ball, lads, and he can get involved in all areas of the midfield. I wasn't sure of how good he was a tackler, but I digged up some stats just to get. I don't know them exactly, but he can tackle. He likes to get around the pitch and put a tackle in. People are calling him a bigger version of Kante. Now, I don't know if that's possible, but if we can find the next Kante / Pogba, this is a deal you can't look past lightly. This is something, player that doesn't come around often, I don't think. And if we can get our hands on him at this age and embed him in, that process hopefully doesn't take too long and he can become a regular, because you're looking at the likes of Matic and all, that's just saying that. Donny van der Beek, you're going to need options in there, I think. I don't think Ollie will touch the pivot that much. But if Camavinga comes in there and can hold his position this season, he could be a regular. But he's one of these players that I think you have to go for a perfect opportunity, because he'll always hold the price that we're getting him for. If there's any truth in the price that's been mentioned, at least 10, 12 years you can play football for from this year. Whenever he decides to retire. So there's value in the market here. And no one wants to be an Anderson either, Only Anderson could accept the role to be, a backup midfielder for good players like that. I don't think he'll accept that role where he doesn't have the same personality as Anderson, happy to just be there and also put in a good shift when he does come on the pitch. But he'll probably want to mix it up, he'll want to be a first teamer, definitely. But there's other big clubs looking at him. I'm sure Real Madrid again. And
PSG, I think, are in for him.
Yeah, PSG as well.
And lads, I just want to mention a few more transfer news before we get into Varane and maybe Declan Rice. So Williams looks like he might be going on loan to Southampton. He's looking for first game football. Then we're looking at Tuanzebe going to.
What's first game football?
What?
What's first game football? What's that?
Oh, you know it in England.
Yeah. Is Damien playing first game football? Is he?
Sorry?
Is Damien playing first game football?
Damien Rice.
Damien you mentioned
he's
last
on
week.
stage down the Olympia. Then Tuanzebe looks like he might be going to Aston Villa. That's what I read. Then there's talk of Ronaldo. That's still rumoured. And then the other one is Trippier, who's quite keen on coming to United. There's a price tag of
43 million.
Is it 43 million?
We put in a bid for him.
I think the bid was 34.
It was something like £20 million or some £25 million.
Well off. And the Atletico don't want to come down. So there's an issue there. As in, it's going to be another Sancho thing where we're not going to put in the right money.
The thing is, Simone's only at the signing a new deal. He's there 10 years at the signing a new deal there today, I think it was. And I don't think he's going to want to break up that title winning team, because for the first time in a long time, Atletico have a good chance of retaining the title. Do you know what I mean? Like they've won it. I think they won it in 2014, but they dropped off then a little bit. Madrid, Barca come back. But I think this season they have a good chance to retain the title. I don't think he's going to want to let players like Trippier go. That's the thing.
Mm.
And then who are they going to bring in if they got enough time to bring players in? Do you know that way? Like, is Trippier worth 43 million? Do you know what I mean? I'm one of these. If you want them, go get them, pay the money.
Yeah.
I don't want to see us haggling over Kieran Trippier. That's the thing. Like, I don't want us being like, going in with bids that are not what Madrid want, and then we're like, it looks like we're begging them for them. You know what I mean? I don't want to see that.
Sorry, Ray, go ahead.
No, I just think it'd be a good option. I think it'd be a good option. He'll add something that we really need. A different option on that right hand side. And
good link-up play with Sancho, I would imagine, because he gets forward, doesn't he?
Yeah. Good delivery into the box as well. He gets forward, puts in deliveries. Lots of
partnership there. And then if you look at Luke Shaw, Rashford on the left.
Yeah, and Ollie likes English passport as well, so I'd say he'll go in for that.
Yeah, see what happens there. We'll keep an eye on it anyway. And then we have, Varane is probably the big one coming in from Real Madrid. We have heard rumours that maybe it's not looking as good as we first thought.
Yeah. They just have to. I think they're at the stage where he needs to meet Real Madrid. Like, he's obviously on vacation now, He's not willing to sign another deal with them, but Real Madrid haven't presented him with an offer that he can't refuse. So they need to really do that. maybe he is just backing Real Madrid into a corner, to do what Sergio Ramos did to us when it was talks of him coming. Maybe he's doing that, or maybe he just wants a new challenge. Hopefully, that's what he's thinking. I need a new challenge. United are a club that's been after me before I went to Real Madrid. They're up and coming. There's a few, up and coming stars in that team. They look like they're improving every year. I don't know about the manager, but I'm willing to get to know him. He might not be there in a year. So yeah, I want to try that. That's the hope we have, because if we get him, it's done. You heard it here first. We're gonna win the league.
Glenn, I suppose there's a price issue here again, and we were talking about the price issue of Trippier, but I suppose we want for that a bit more. So is it that Madrid want 51 million for him, is it?
Feeling around the 50 million mark. That's what's getting said around.
United's offering 38.
I don't know why. I don't know how true that is, but if we are, I don't know why we're doing that. If you want a top class centre back, go pay 50 million. You won't get another centre back like that again for that price. Do you know what I mean? Especially after the way Van Dijk changed, that he went for 75 million. I know he was in his contract situation at Southampton was a little bit different, but you need when players like that become available, you need to take it. You said it there, Roddy, about Pogba. He's 28. It's his last big contract. Varane is sort of in that same boat. I heard he's looking for, a 5-year deal, which will take him up to he's 33. You know what I mean? Like, so we have to make sure we're the right place for him as well. Do you know that way? Like, I don't see him staying at Madrid because it's a transitional period, and I just think that it'll be a long time before Madrid are back to where they were 3 or 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Now, I'm saying that they might go in the Champions League next year just because we said that, but I'm betting that. Like, they're not what they were, and I don't think a player like him will probably stick around for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, true. So moving on from Varane, then I suppose I want to kind of finish up on Declan Rice and Lingard. So we saw Declan Rice play for England, played very well in there with Phillips, and then we haven't seen Lingard make appearances. Is he on the team? Don't think he made it. No, he didn't.
No, it's just short of time, I thought. I think if he had a couple of more games, I was talking to Glenn about it, I think if he had a couple of more games, he would have made it. Or a few more games in there for West Ham, he would have made it. His performances were getting better and getting better. It gives me hope of thinking, like, if he does want to stay, will he bring that same energy to the team and battle and mix it with Bruno and, push players? Lingard, yeah.
I don't think Lingard wants to play at United.
I think if you put, it's not a big one for me. Like, if he goes, it's not. I always liked Lingard. I thought he was very useful under Mourinho. One of the few players that was useful in and around the box when we didn't have a player like Bruno. He just dropped off. I don't know why. I'd never understood it. Like, he's always the fittest to come back. He did have maybe the issues away from football let him down big time.
Do you know what the issues? I'll tell you what the issues are now. There was a time where, this is my issue. There was a time when United were at the losing the game, and Wayne Rooney and Michael Carrick walk into the dressing room the next day, and guess what's happening when they walk in? Jesse Lingard and his best mate Paul Pogba are standing there dancing. The day after the defeat, like, Wayne Rooney was like, I had to go over and knock the speaker off and take it out of the dressing room and all, but he was like, that's just a modern player. I don't think Jesse Lingard takes anything too seriously. That's the thing. And I don't think you can have that when you're playing for United, especially with the predicament we're in at the moment where we're trying to get back to the top. I think, and I was saying this to you, Ray, if you go out on loan at the age of 27 or 28 from United, there's no way really back for him. There's not. I don't think he is going to get the space that he got with West Ham with us. And when he doesn't get that, he's no use. So like a headless chicken running around the pitch. That's just my opinion on that. I think we should just let him go now. You know what I mean?
That makes sense, Glenn, because you see him kind of open up, like, his personality really comes on show at West Ham. And that's probably because there's less responsibility. They're not in the Champions League, or they weren't anyway. They're not competing for the top tier. It's just
pressure on them, Roddy.
Yeah, it's a bit more laid back. You can do good, and you'll be respected for doing good, And if you do great and you start scoring goals, you know, you're kind of hailed as a hero. And that's what he is at West Ham. He's done very well. And if you did that at United, he'd just be a great player at United.
Yeah, but you need to have the right manager to use that. You need to have that option. If like we've struggled to you know, get the buzz when the sub was made last season, because you don't know what, you know, you're expecting just legs for legs going in there. But if you bring a Lingard on for the likes of Bruno, like, you'd expect something, a shift in approach to playing. You know, that's what I'm hoping, that if it does come, we will be able to bring that plan A, plan B. You know, just the way England do it, the plan B is better than the plan A, but the plan A is safe. You know, we don't mind playing safe football. You know, as long as you can keep the ball and keep it at 0-0, it keeps you in the game. I'd prefer 1-0 all game. But when you do switch it up, don't just bring on legs, you know, at that level, just to keep it going. Enforce plan A. Maybe try and, you know, be brave with it and have plan B. And this is what I'd expect. A big squad, Lingard and Monk, if he wants to stay there and commit and accept that position of, you know, making an impact when you come on. That's your job. Make an impact and you know, maybe do what Mata was doing, but play more. Because Mata's not really gonna, you know.
I don't think he wants that, Ray. I don't think we can force him to play that way. I think he made his mind up when he said that he wanted to go on loan. And you can see how happy he is now in that position.
Yeah.
He also said, I think, Glenn, you mentioned that there, just before we came on, that there was a swap deal maybe mentioned for him and Rice, and that he wasn't too interested in that. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Because it devalues you as a player when you do that, doesn't it? Or I was in part exchange for, you know, a player to go in go the opposite direction. For me, you know, I don't want to slate Lingard, but I think we've seen the best of him at United from around 2015 to about 2018 for about 3-year period there. What he done in the FA Cup final in 2016 under Van Gaal, the fact that he you know, scored in the League Cup final when Mourinho was there and everything. But I just think now it's slowed down, it's died down, it's gone now. You know what I mean? That we're past that now. I don't think he's a world-class player. I don't think he ever was that. And I think, like, what we need to do now is know when the right time is to move players on. And that's something Alex Ferguson was always great at. He knew when a player's time was up at the club, no matter how much he liked them or got on with them. He always said it was very hard and all, but you have to be ruthless in that. And we need to do that. We need to get players like Lingard now, I feel, out of the club. I don't see it working out where we're ever going to be winning leagues with him starting and being that player that he probably was for us a couple of years ago. I don't see it. I think it's better for all parties to just go their separate ways.
So, Ray, how do you feel about that? Because I know you're kind of pushing for a bit more Lingard, see him back in the
Look, I'm comfortable with it, lads. Honestly, if he wants to come back, he you know, I'm hearing that he doesn't want to go, but at the same time, he would be good, like you're saying, in a West Ham team. He'd be good at Spurs. I always had that feeling. London would suit him with you know, the way he's involved in fashion and all, and he is that, you know, outgoing person and whatnot. And I don't mind that. I just hope that, you know, going into next season that we have options. That's what I'm hoping for, and I think he would be a good option off the bench. I've seen him do bits at Arsenal at the Emirates against Arsenal. You know, they're good memories for me. I love when we beat Arsenal at the Emirates. There's just something about it.
Yeah, that was good, Ray. I'll give you that now. Yeah,
it was special. You know, when he was very good. Couple of goals I remember. You know, FA Cup final, and he was there or thereabouts. He always brings. He's the fittest person to come back pre-season, so that means he's naturally fit. You know, he'll run for days. I think he'd be a useful player for us. But if he decides to leave, whatever.
And how do you feel then? Just the last word on Declan Rice coming in.
Damo would be decent. I don't see. I don't think he'd be that. You know, he'd improve us that much. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think. I think Maguire could do that job. McTominay could do that job. Glenn said it. He's side to side, you know. He's side to side.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you're saying.
Like he does have a long ball in him. We just don't see it enough in the English team. What he does is just a little bit aggressive and tackling and all. But I know Ollie and United, I like him.
Is he worth 80, 90 million?
He's not worth that money, yeah.
No.
Definitely not. It's the English tax again. For that quality, for that amount of money, you could lure in a world class player.
And if he went to Euros, what happens to these players if they were to win the Euros? Do you know what I mean? That adds another bit to the price tag and everything. And I think he'd slow the game too much for us. Like, all right, he breaks play up and all, but how quick is he moving the ball forward? And you just said it there, Ray. He doesn't play the ball forward enough. And if you, as I said this after the Croatia game we did with England, I'd have Calvin Phillips over him any day of the week.
Yeah, I like that player. I think there's no
take
talk
him.
to him. Oh Jesus, take him. Yeah,
give Lingard to Leeds, and we'll take Calvin Phillips. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not disrespect. Would Lingard play well under Bielsa, Ray? Would he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
do you know that way that'd suit him?
Yeah, Dave does similar type of players, don't he?
Yeah. All right, well, listen, we'll get down to Ollie and tell him how we're feeling about Lingard.
He's listening to this.
He's fucking better be.
So, lads, we'll leave it there. I want to get your predictions for the Euros finals.
Oh, Jane.
Sunday.
That's a tough one, that is, man. Yeah, that's tough.
So, just before we finish, Ray, I'll come to you. How are you feeling?
Well, I just say Italy to win it late in extra time. Or Italy on penalties, actually. Jesus. 0-0 all the way through to penalties. 0-0 all the way through to penalties. The most boring game you're ever going to watch. But a fascinating game, a battle. You know? Yeah, I'll go 0-0 and Italy to win it on penalties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go for an Italy win. But I'm probably, I'd say Italy 3-1. And the reason why I say that is I think there's a mistake in there by Pickford that's going to shatter England. I think England are going to be in the game right up until that happens. And then as soon as it happens, you know what I mean? I reckon it's going to be 1-1 when that happens. And then Italy will just take over from there. Be late in the game as well, I think.
Typical, won't it?
He'll break their hearts, and he'll get his golden glove. But he'll never be able to show his face in England again. Do you know what I mean? He'd be paraded, he will.
Perfect, that, isn't it? Like,
that way, because
well taught, mate. Yeah. What have you got, Roddy? I hope you're going for England.
We feel late. I'm actually not. We feel like that late goal is coming. I was stuck between 2-1 Italy and 3-2 Italy. I'm going to say 3-2. I'm going to say 2-all 90 minutes. And then Italy will pull a goal off. Pickford will make that mistake in extra time. I'm going to see a 3-2 game. I think it's going to be a very good game. Italy moved the ball fast.
I think my prediction's going to get it this time around.
I'm not feeling that way. I mean, Italy do not go without scoring a goal.
I don't think the referee is going to allow it to go to penalties, to be honest with you. I reckon he has his orders, Ray, from UEFA to say, look,
you better make
any chance of it going to penalties, just give England the penalty there, will you? No matter how many footballs on the pitch or what contact's made. How many missed?
Yeah, definitely. Be cracker anyway.
I'm looking forward to it. I have to say.
Yeah.
And we'll be back here next week talking about this, so you can catch us on Thursday. Tune into us on Podbean, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, at Twitter, at The Devil's Bit. And we look forward to chatting to you then, lads. Good luck with your predictions and chat soon.
Cheers, lads, right?
Yeah.